Good evening, I'm Sean Yao.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Edwin Gao, sitting in for Ces Oriana Dilon. There's no bigger story tonight than former President Duterte remaining in detention. This after the International Criminal Court's appeals chamber rejected his appeal for temporary freedom. But there's still that more important and still undecided issue of Duterte's fitness to stand trial.
Back here at home, we have more developments on the flood control scams probe and prosecution, with President Bongbong Marcos ordering tight watch on the air assets of Zaldico and a disgraced DPWH engineer returning 110 million pesos to the government.
And many are calling the DTI secretary out of touch, even tone deaf, when she said that 500 pesos is enough for a simple Noche Buena. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque's so-called clarification is not helping her case.
Of course, the big story for tonight, Duterte stays in detention. For how much longer, we don't know, because there's still a review process that the defense can avail of.
Right, 120
120
days.
So that's every 4 months.
Every 4 months pwedeng mag-appeal, di ba? Pero how does that work? And would you know if pwede ba nilang palitan yung grounds? Or can they add additional info?
It's an entirely different process altogether from what I understand from Attorney Gilbert Andres, whom we will have later. They can avail of the cycle of every 120 days. You can ask for a review of the particulars of a case, and see if
conditions could change.
Yeah, because conditions can change from day to day, month to month, and week to week. So yun, that is available to them, and so I suppose you can expect that they will avail of that every 4 months.
But also that the fitness to stand trial, that's a whole separate issue.
That's a whole separate issue outside of itong interim release.
So walang bearing ito, no?
Walang
on each
bearing.
other.
And also the deadlines for that is still coming up next month. So it's beyond this decision-making process. If I'm right, December 5 ang deadline for
Actually,
the
this week na
submission.
yun. This coming week.
coming
Submission. Next week. This coming week. Itong parating na week.
Okay, December 5 for the submission of the 3 medical experts on their recommendations. It can be made jointly or separately. And then December 12 for the response of the stakeholders. And after that, I suppose a decision will be made by the trial chamber.
But interestingly, the ICC will also be adjourning, right, for the holidays, and they won't be back until January 27th.
Mahaba-haba.
No.
Parang meron sang Chinese New Year ba?
Well, actually,
Hindi
parang
naman,
kasi di ba multi-national, multi-ethnicity
That's true.
rin. So maybe
That's
they're
true, of
considering
course.
all the holidays.
Yeah, but as per Attorney Gilbert Andres, the calendar of the ICC states that the 27th of January. Basically the end of January.
Yes.
And that's the only time that everything will resume all over again. Remember, we are so far 4 months delayed as far as the confirmation of charges is concerned. It was originally scheduled for the 23rd of September, if I remember right. 23rd?
September 23.
23.
That's it, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was also the defense, no? Sila Attorney Kaufman yung humingi na madali ito.
Oh, because of, among other things, the issue of his fitness to stand trial. So you have that as well. So by September 8th, there was a decision made to defer or postpone the confirmation of charges. And that has not yet been rescheduled.
What are they waiting for? Would we know?
I suppose ito, yung interim release. And remember, di ba, the appeal was partly because of supposed issues with the medical condition of the president. And that's only coming up next month. With the submissions of the medical experts and the responses of the stakeholders.
But isn't it also correct to say that whether or not he is found to be fit or unfit for trial, it will also have no bearing on the release, on an interim release of some sort?
Okay, and as we said, the International Criminal Court's appeals chamber has rejected the bid of former President Duterte for temporary release.
And just like the first time, the vote was unanimous. The reactions are steadily coming in as we speak.
Well, the defense team stated 3 grounds for the request: health, the state that's willing to receive him, and humanitarian reasons.
And let's get more from News 5 anchor Ruth Cabal, who is joining us all the way from The Hague. Ruth, kamusta ang mood dyan sa ICC? I can see nasa labas ka. And
Oo,
actually,
nandito na ako sa labas. Teka lang, lalagyan ko ng gumagalaw yung ano ko, tripod ko.
sige lang, sige lang.
Ah,
Actually, pwede
kasi
mo hawakan mo.
sobrang hangin.
Kung gusto mo
Oo,
hawakan mo, kung gusto mo hawakan mo, para you can show us around.
Oo. Nauwalis na kasi yung mga nandito, bawal tayong mag-focus dun sa harapan ng
Okay.
ICC. Pero
Okay.
nandito tayo sa labas na ngayon, naglipit na yung mga supporters kanina. Pero siguro unahin ko na lang din kasi nagkaroon tayo ng pagkakataon na to talk to Congressman Omar Duterte, who was with us inside during the hearing. Kasama natin siya doon sa public gallery. Actually, tinitingnan ko nga yung reaction niya while the chamber's judge was reading yung decision, no? At nakita ko tahimik lang siya doon. Pero nung nandito na kanina, nung in-interview natin siya, sinabi niya syempre na hindi nila nagustuhan itong naging desisyon ng appeals chamber. Lalo na sinasabi niya pa nga magpapasko. Tapos sabi niya sa akin, may nakaschedule siya na pagbisita ngayon kay dating Pangulong Duterte. So sabi niya, kailangan daw i-compose niya yung sarili niya dahil ayaw niyang ipakita na malungkot siya pag humarap siya sa kanyang lolo. Pero para lang marinig nyo na rin, no? I-roll natin yung naging interview natin, short clip from Omar Duterte.
We rarely talk about the case, the cases. We rarely talk about anything to do with his case here in the ICC. But if ever he brings it up, sabihin ko lang talaga na we will live to fight another day.
Paano po ang Pasko ng Pamilya Duterte?
We'll keep it as merry as possible for
Itong si Omar is apo, di ba? Siya ba yung anak ni Pulong?
Pulong.
Congressman, yes, oo. Kanina kasi, di ba, when you first interviewed me, papasok pa lang ako doon sa court. And let me just share with you yung experience na nag-start na itong binasa yung decision 10:41, dapat 10:30 yung schedule. Nakahiwalay kami, nandun kami sa public gallery, nasa baba yung judges, of course, yung representative from the prosecutor's office, the office of the victims, and of course the defense, no? And then we were made to wear yung mga headset para marinig namin yung pagbasa ng ni Judge Luz del Ibanez Carranza. Siya yung nagbasa ng decision, and like what you mentioned in the headlines, so first they specified kung bakit umapila ang defense na dapat magkaroon ng interim release ang dating Pangulo. Syempre, una dyan, yung sinasabi nila na because he was a travel risk, at sinabi nila na pwede pa siyang maka-influence doon sa mga magiging doon sa witnesses or even doon sa victims or sa families ng victims. And second grounds ay yung hindi daw kinonsider, nagkamali daw, sabi ng defense, nagkamali yung pre-trial chamber 1 in saying that it didn't consider na there were some states who would accept the former president, and also hindi nila tinignan, and also yung hindi rin daw, nagkamali din daw itong pre-trial chamber in failing to grant yung humanitarian or tignan yung humanitarian consideration. So in all three grounds were rejected by the appeals chamber. Kanina paulit-ulit na maririnig natin during the hearing na sinasabi na the defense failed to demonstrate that there was error. So inisa-isa nila yan, hindi daw na-establish halimbawa na hindi pwedeng na hindi flight risk si Duterte, kasi sinasabi nila may meets, even by international contacts. Inulit yan kanina ng appeals chamber, even yung pagsabi na marami pa siyang contacts and meron siyang network of support.
Yeah.
Lalo na napakita rin yan because he was a former president and that he was also elected mayor again of Davao City. Yung pangalawang grounds na hindi daw pinansin, again, failed to demonstrate the error of the part of the pre-trial chamber 1 na hindi daw kinonsider yung pagtingin doon sa ibang states posible na mag-accept kay Pangulong Duterte. At isa pa, yung humanitarian consideration, sinabi rin ng appeals chamber na tinignan naman daw yan ng pre-trial court, pero hindi lang nabigyan ng paglilinaw na isa yan sa parang dapat pasehan kung bibigyan ng interim release. Para sinasabi nila, pwedeng, kunyari, for medical considerations, pero that's just one of the reasons. At again, di ba, meron pang isang pending na titignan ng medical experts itong dating Pangulo. So in all, naging malinaw naman yung sinabi ng appeals chamber na yun na nga, na mananatili in detention itong dating Pangulo. At yung based on what we asked from the experts also, ang sinasabi nila final na ito, na wala nang no more room for appeal. And by the way, si Attorney Harry Roque, who's also an ICC accredited, ay nandito pala kanina. So binanggit ko rin, tinanong ko rin siya about that, na sinabi ko ba ay final na ba yan, wala na ba yung appeal? Yun din naman ang sinagot ni Harry Roque na final na daw usually yung desisyon ng appeals chamber. Pero kanina, kung matatandaan nyo, binanggit din naman doon na pwedeng i-review. Halimbawa, there could be a review of the petition for interim release for 120 days or on certain period na i-ask daw ulit ng defense. Binanggit yan kanina ng appeals chamber.
Ruth, speaking of Harry Roque, did he mention, natanong mo ba kung anong plano niya? Kasi diba, may December 10 deadline siya para umabot sa Austria, para doon siya mag-file ng asylum niya. Did he give you plans na parang since tapos na tong hearing, maybe he's going to go?
Wala pa siyang, hindi namin napag-usapan kung tutuloy siya doon. But with regards to his other cases, halimbawa yung sinasabi na, tinanong ko kasi na, many people are saying you should go back to the country to face your case. What he said was, I am facing my cases and I am filing the necessary legal appeals or yung kung ano ba mga legal documents. At tinatanggi niya na tinatakasan niya yan. At wala na siyang binanggit kung anong mangyayari doon sa kanyang application for asylum. But again, dinenay niya rin na he was arrested. Yun yung sinasabi niya na hindi siya, yung itong nangyaring insidente na pinapapasok sa plate, sinasabi niya hindi siya inaresto. Pero pakinggan din muna natin, meron tayong part ng interview dun sa reaction ni Attorney Harry Roque.
So malungkot itong pangyayaring ito dahil unang-una, yung desisyon nila na pwede pa raw tumakas at pwede paghimasukan ni Tatay Digong ang prosecution nakabase sa ebidensya. Anong ebidensya? News reports. Sa Pilipinas, no yan. Hearsay yan, no? So hindi ko maintindihan bakit ganyan, no? At syempre, masakit pakinggan bilang isang abogado na baliwala yung humanitarian plea, no? Hindi dapat ganun.
Ruth, another quick question, no? Were you able to get a hold of Attorney Nicholas Kaufman? Kasi gusto ko lang malaman kung parang nag-tune in din ba si Digong live, si former president live, or pinuntahan niya ba after to brief him? Ano ba yung situation doon?
Unfortunately, hindi tayo nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na makita si Attorney Kaufman dito sa gathering of the Duterte supporters kanina. Susubukan natin kasi lilipat tayo doon dahil sinabi ni Congressman Omar na dadalaw siya. So susundan natin siya doon after this report ay lilipat tayo doon sa may bahagi ng detention center. So titignan natin if maabutan natin doon si Attorney Kaufman. But we were just, I guess, nakita nyo rin naman doon sa camera, doon sa live streaming na he was just, intently listening to the decision as it was being read. Kasi nandun din sila sa part sa baba doon sa side kung nasaan yung mga judges. Yung binabanggit ko lang kanina, unanimous ang naging decision ng appeals chamber, although only three of the 5 judges were present during the reading of the decision.
And Ruth, may iba pa bang nakapending ang kampo ni former President Duterte before the appeals chamber? Kasama na yung jurisdictional challenge nila doon sa ICC.
Yeah. Kasi yun na nga, yun pa yung susunod na pending yung appeal for yung jurisdiction, ano. So isa pa yan sa hinihintay natin. Pati yung motion for adjournment, dito kasi papasok yung medical tests ni dating Pangulong Duterte kasi nga parang pinapa-adjourn nila because of yung his health, yung kanyang kalusugan, ano. So diyan yung pinayagan na i-check si dating Pangulong Duterte ng mga medical experts. So hihintayin din yan kasi meron silang kailangang isubmit na requirements related to that by this December, I think. Tungkol saan sa yung motion for adjournment and yung gagawing medical examination.
Pero Ruth, pagdating naman doon sa trial, what's next, Is there more clarity now on kailan na mangyayari yung confirmation of charges ni former President?
Wala akong, hindi ko maano yung legal aspects on that. But yun na nga, magkakaroon pa ng confirmation, hearing for the confirmation of charges. So dun pa lang, again, malalaman kung kailan uusad itong kaso, itong formal trial. So titingnan natin kung anong susunod. But as far as itong ang issue ng interim release, tapos na ito at resolved na ito and he will remain in detention.
Ruth, pahabol na lang, I understand, siyempre, malungkot yung mga Duterte supporters there. Pero at the same time, sila ba'y nagpupuyo sa galit dahil sa naging resulta ng pinaka-iintay na appeal?
It's more of yung nakita ko sa sentiment nila actually. More of emotional sila. Lumalapit ako sa kanila kung pwede silang ma-interview. Sinasabi nila, naku, baka maiyak ako. Ganyan yung, I don't think, anyway, sinend ko na siya. Pero mga ganun yung mga reaction nila. More of emotional sila, nalulungkot sila. Yung isang na-interview ko rin, sinabi nila na hindi daw sila mawawala ng pag-asa. Parang gano'n. Yun ang sinasabi nila. So, but of course, binanggit din nila na bakit naman may mga kina-question din sila na bakit naman naging gano'n yung decision, especially nga considering the health and yung 80 years old na daw ang dating Pangulo.
Quick last follow-up, Ruth. Yung supporters na banggit mo nag-pack up na, did they move doon sa may detention center side? Or they packed up na talaga for the day?
From what I know, ay may ilan sa kanila na lilipat doon. Kasi nga, ang sabi sa atin ni Congressman Omar ay dadalaw daw sila ngayong hapon. So, susunod rin tayo doon after this report.
Okay, maraming salamat for that update. News 5 anchor Ruth Cabal reporting live from The Hague in the Netherlands.
At this point, let's read some more reactions on the rejection of former President Duterte's interim release appeal from Palace Press Officer Claire Castro, and we quote, "The International Criminal Court has already made its decision and the palace respects it." It was just that, short and sweet.
And this one's from the Duterte family. The family accepts the ICC Appeals Chamber's decision with peaceful hearts, and we will continue to work with the defense team on the case, and we'll keep supporting former President Rodrigo Duterte with our daily conversations. We thank everyone who prayed with us today.
From former Senator Sonny Trillanes, and we quote, "Ngayon na natundukan na yung interim release na yan, sana'y huwag nang magpaasa ang leaders ng Duterte camp sa mga supporters nila. Hindi na makakalaya si Duterte bilang kabayaran sa libu-libong Pilipinong pinagpapatay niya." And as promised, we're getting more reactions. Let's bring in Attorney Israelito Torreon, an ally of the former president. Attorney, good evening po, and thank you for joining us again.
Yes, good evening. Good evening po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, sir.
Magandang gabi po.
Yes, sir. Sir, of course, we do understand that you're not part of the legal team in The Hague in the ICC case, but you are part of the local legal team handling the cases here in the Philippines. Una-una po, ano po reaction nyo dun sa nangyari?
Well, I accepted it with a peaceful heart, though at one time I was apoplectic. I posted it. I was hoping that the third ground would be granted, although I was not so hopeful so far as the first two grounds were concerned. But nangyari na yan, wala tayong magawa. Let's just move on and continue to hope for the best.
Sir, the third ground you're referring to humanitarian grounds.
Yes, and I'm referring to the humanitarian grounds because indeed the grounds are very clear and evidences were presented that he needs to be out of prison. But, hindi lang ako masyado magkomento kasi I made a commitment that I will not make comments especially on the substantive issues of the case on the ground that I'm the lead counsel here of the petition for certiorari of the former president and Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Okay. Attorney, I was wondering if you're in Davao. If you are in Davao, what are the sentiments of, the everyday Davaoenyo? Umaasa pa ba? Umaasa pa ba yung mga Davaoenyo na mapapakawalan, may chance na mag-grant yung interim release, or parang they kind of, lost hope na?
Well, actually, we are hoping against hope, no? People in Davao City are hopeful that somehow a miracle would happen and the ICC would ultimately, find the necessary ground in order for the former president to be released. And we are prayerful likewise na merong milagro mangyayari.
Attorney, so you have also the appeals chamber saying, they really used media reports and open source information from the Philippines in considering this whole request. How significant now, in your opinion, are the coverage of media here in the Philippines?
Yeah, that's why I'm very careful also with my comments, knowing that I was the lead counsel of the petition for certiorari, the very first petition that was filed questioning the arrest and questioning the continued cooperation of the Philippine government with the ICC. And that is why if you notice, I never comment, especially on the substantive matters affecting the ICC proceedings, simply because of the fact that any comments that I may do, just like what was done by Vice President Sara Duterte, yung isang honest comment niya naging portion na dung sa isang decision po ng pre-trial chamber. So I do not want to be accused that I make unnecessary comments here in the Philippines which might harm the case of the former president in the ICC. Reporting here would really have a bearing in the ICC decisions.
As well as family statements. Having said that, no, gawin ko lang sa question ni Pawi, Attorney Torreon, is the Duterte family, all members, are they now more mindful of, statements that they make kahit na ambush interview because everything finds its way online nowadays?
Well, I am incompetent to really say that, but I can observe that they are now, mindful of what they say, because indeed, it would have, any comments would have an effect, no, in the proceedings before the ICC. Ibang-iba po yung procedure po ng ICC dito po sa ating bansa.
Attorney, may iba ko ng konti. Ano po yung update dun sa petitions ninyo with the Supreme Court on Duterte and on Bato de la Rosa? Do we have any updates on that?
Yes, I already filed 6 motions for issuance of TRO, the latest of which was the declaration of Ombudsman Rimulya that he has a copy of the warrant of arrest as against, as against Senator Bato de la Rosa. He declared that 4 times, and the latest of which was the affirmation on the part of his brother, the DILG secretary, that indeed he saw a signed digital copy, and that was one of the grounds that I used why there is now clear and urgent necessity on the part of the Supreme Court to act on my prayer for TRO, because this is an evidence that if such would be implemented here, that would constitute a continued cooperation with the ICC, and since that is the main matter which we question, knowing that we are no longer a party to the Rome Statute, then there are enough grounds for the Supreme Court to act. And the second ground was the processing of witnesses that may be presented before the ICC by the DOJ, and this processing of witnesses would constitute continued cooperation and therefore within the subject matter of the petition that we filed before the ICC. The other motion was the motion for production, which mainstream media has highlighted instead of the main motion that was denied. But I already filed a most respectful motion for reconsideration, citing among others that there is a duty, responsibility on the part of Ombudsman Rimulya to produce the alleged warrant of arrest in whatever form or character, knowing that it has a direct bearing on the subject matter of our petition, because if such exists, then he should be made to answer who provided it to him, when was it provided, and what was the authority of the person who provided it to him. No? Because these matters are supposedly confidential. And we feel that he, being an officer of the court, he is still a lawyer, and the ombudsman at that, then the Supreme Court should make a ruling on the matter.
Sir, are you still in touch with Senator Bato de la Rosa? Kasi a couple of days ago, I understand, Senate President Tito Soto was asked about de la Rosa's case, and he said na si Senator Bato should participate pa rin because he is not on official leave anyway. What is your response to that?
Well, knowing na medyo sabog kasi yung messaging ng gobyerno, hindi talaga natin alam kung may warrant of arrest na o hindi. 2 high officials na po ang nagsasabi na meron. Tapos yung DOJ naman sabi wala, yung DFA wala. So we also would like to be clarified as to what procedure would be applied if indeed there is a warrant of arrest. Would it be extradition rules or would it be surrender? And I have heard the opinions of our legal luminaries that it would be surrender simply because of the fact that the ICC is not a state pursuant to Rule 1, Section 3M, so therefore extradition rules would apply. I have a counter opinion on it that the extradition rules were precisely issued in order to govern issues like this. But then, even if we concede it under surrender rules, we do not have clear implementing rules and regulations on the matter. If you read Article 59, even the competent judicial authority has not been defined under Philippine dispensation. Shall we conduct pre-trial? Shall we conduct preliminary conference? That has not been defined. If you also read Article 59, the proper process as to how you would effectuate surrender has not also been defined. So it is premature, therefore, to implement surrender without passing through our local courts, and the procedure as to what will be done by the courts, what proper petition should be filed, should be clarified and should be in written form before we implement such. And in the meantime that the IRR is not issued by the government, whatever branch it is needed to issue the same, then Senator Bato has reasons not to make himself available as of moment.
Right, Attorney, your last interview with us just days ago, that's exactly what you said. You're waiting for some sort of IRR on that surrender provision. But my question is it really meant to have an IRR? Or is it meant to be a case-to-case basis? That's why they just left it? Or na-overlook lang yung paggagawa ng IRR?
I think now they are realizing it, because I have information that the DILG is somehow crafting one. And I know that for a fact because I also have friends there. And they are trying to craft what they call as a IRR, which would comply with the requirements on due process. And that is a very good development, because indeed, no Filipino should just be dragged right away just because there is an alleged warrant of arrest from a foreign court and brought to a foreign court without passing through our local courts. We have functioning court system here. Kung may kaso si Senator Bato, ang amin pong stand ay Pilipino po siya, pailan ninyo ng kaso dito sa Pilipinas at aming haharapin. Kung argument ninyo ay Article 127, mag-apply pa, may jurisdiction pa yung ICC dito, even if kini-question namin yan, at the very least, the provisions on Article 59 should be applied. Kasi kung basahin mo, pati nga Article 89 on surrender, kailangan po applicable local law ang mag-apply doon po sa surrender. So kung even under the Rome Statute, yung applicable local law ang dapat mag-apply on surrender, then dapat klaro yung rules natin dito. Yun po ang aking humble stand.
Yes. Attorney, just going back to President Duterte at the ICC, sabi po ng appeals chamber that the medical records of Mr. Duterte weren't enough to justify humanitarian grounds, but we are still waiting for the medical evaluation, which will come out, the results of that evaluation, which will come out on December 5. But just to give us a clear idea, Attorney, ano po ba talaga yung kalagayan ni President Duterte ngayon? Do we have a clear picture on what his medical condition is right now?
Well, what I can only say is his condition is not good. And, legal experts would tell you that decisions of appeals chamber are final. That is really indeed the general rule, especially on decisions on the merits. But there are likewise interlocutory decisions. And I humbly believe, I may be wrong, that interim release decisions or orders are interlocutory decisions. If there are supervening events that would arise necessitating the filing of another motion for interim release, that can be done. So therefore, even if as a general rule, a motion for reconsideration is not allowed, in this case, it may be allowed under limited circumstances, simply because the health of a person may vary from one time to another time.
Okay, maraming salamat for talking to the big story at Tony Israelito Torion. Thank you, sir.
On to other news. President Bongbong Marcos orders the return of former Congressman Zaldico's air assets. He told the Department of Transportation and the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines to coordinate with Malaysia and Singapore, where COS assets reportedly are. These aircraft are registered under COS company Misibis Aviation and Development Corporation. The Anti-Money Laundering Council, or AMLAC, has already issued a freeze order on COS air assets.
You cannot steal from Filipino people and expect to hide or fly away on your private jets. You have the money to run. but you cannot outrun the Republic of the Philippines. Kaya kayo mga pugante, umuwi na kayo. Ang payo ko sa inyo, hindi na kayo turista, hinahabol na kayo ng batas.
Meanwhile, the president also reported that former DPWH Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara returned 110 million pesos to the government. Marcos said Alcantara will return 200 million pesos more in the coming weeks.
This government intends to bring back every peso, every asset, every person responsible and return it to the Filipino people.
Mespawi has just reported dismissed Public Works engineer Henry Alcantara has indeed returned some kickbacks that he funneled from flood control projects. The 110 million pesos is a portion of the estimated 300 million pesos that Alcantara admitted to have stolen from the national budget. Bundles of cash filled the table when the DOJ presented the funds this Friday. Justice Acting Secretary Frederick Vida said Alcantara's Senate detention hindered him from returning the whole amount. The cash will undergo validation before being turned over to the government's coffers.
Ang maganda po nito, sa bulsa po ng mamamayang Pilipino pupunta to. Sa Bureau of Treasury po ang mag-i-issue. Pagkatapos po, checkin pa raw eh. Kung may counterfeit, kung kulang yung bilang and everything, may proseso ang land bank. At pagkatapos nun, mag-i-issue ng official receipt ang Bureau of Treasury.
And with this, Alcantara is now provisionally admitted to the Witness Protection Program. However, he will have to wait before becoming a full-fledged state witness since the DOJ still needs to assess the veracity of his testimony. Public Works Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo, or former Public Works Undersecretary, I should say, has also committed to return 7 million pesos from one of his frozen bank accounts. And as for the Discayas, well, they have yet to reach out again to the Justice Department.
And it's a scene straight out of the action series. A battalion of police officers surrounded a hotel in Pasay City to hunt 3 executives of SunWest Corporation, but they ended up empty-handed. Hundreds of PNP and NBI personnel attempted to arrest SunWest board members Consuelo Aldon, Noel Cao, and Anthony Ngo at the Pasay Hotel. SunWest was founded by resigned lawmaker Zaldico. The 3 are part of the 16 personalities slapped with arrest warrants in connection with the flood control mess. The CIDG received information that the 3 are disguising themselves as employees. In this News 5 exclusive video, authorities entered the hotel's kitchen and event hall, but after 1 hour of searching, none of the 3 fugitives were found. The CIDG said that hundreds of cops deployed were not an overkill. That's the same number of forces who will hunt for the remaining fugitives. Authorities warned against coddlers of these suspects that they will also be held accountable.
We have more stories for you when we return. This is the big story on One News.
Welcome back. We circle back to our top story tonight. Former President Duterte's plea for an interim release denied by the International Criminal Court. And sharing his insights is ICC accredited lawyer Attorney Gilbert Andres. Sir, magandang gabi and welcome back to The Big Story.
Magandang gabi, Pauline, Sean, at Ed. It's a great evening.
I can tell, sir. Sir, I'm sure you've been in touch with the families of the victims and as well maybe the witnesses. Can you tell us the reaction to everything that's happened tonight?
Ed, they're really very happy. In fact, for them, this is an answered prayer. Papasalamat ko talaga sila. Kasi yung mga messages, hindi lang magdasal. And indeed, answered prayer to it for the families of the war and drug victims.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think happens next from this point on? I mean, we've been talking and reporting, Attorney Gilbert, about yung mga dates, no? December 5, wala pang confirmation of charges hearing. But in your opinion, what could possibly be the scenarios or the next scenarios that will play out?
Sean, so ibig sabihin, ang next na naman, determination, fitness to stand trial. So yan na naman yung magiging focus, And hopefully it can be decided not this year, early next year, And sana nga ma-schedule na ay confirmation of charges.
And attorney, when it comes to the rejection of the appeals chamber, as you mentioned previously, victims were really hoping na made-deny, no? But did you expect that all grounds would be denied and that this would be a unanimous decision?
Oh, Pauline, I actually expected that all of the grounds would be denied. And this will be unanimous. Why? Because in fact, it confirmed that the decision of the pretrial chamber was really based on the facts and on the law. So actually, we expected this.
Well, sir, we do have several pa na mga pending appeals, as you mentioned a while ago in Storycon. Among them, I think yung jurisdictional challenge and of course yung fitness to stand trial. Do these have to be resolved before we move on to the question of the confirmation of charges, or pwede nang mangyaring confirmation of charges even before these are resolved? Is it kailangan you have to tick the boxes first before you move on to that?
Okay, let's look at the fitness to stand trial. It has to be decided before any scheduling of a confirmation of charges.
Okay.
Because in fact, the September 23 initial schedule for confirmation of charges was adjourned, was actually rescheduled because of the motion for determination of fitness to stand trial. So next, as to the jurisdictional challenge on appeal, my position is, since there's already a pretrial chamber decision, it's subsisting. Okay, and it's before the appeals chamber. But even without the decision of the appeals chamber, I think there can be a confirmation of charges even for the decision on appeal.
Okay, with regard to that fitness to stand trial, if, for example, hypothetically, the former President Duterte is found to be not fit, what are we hoping, or what is the defense hoping to get out of that? Posible makawalan siya, or help us understand, yeah.
Based on that, for me, far-fetched hypothetical scenario, remember I also stated a term earlier, de novo, at that time. Maybe hypothetically, that person is not fit to stand trial, but maybe hypothetically, that person can become fit to stand trial. So it's also a contextual determination, which the pretrial chamber is well-equipped to actually do. So maybe in the future, there can be a determination again of that person's fitness to stand trial. But I'd like to add, since that person, Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, signed his own waiver, therefore he understood it, he read it, he understood his right, he understood his right to waive, and he understood his signature. So for me, that's a confirmation on its face that he is fit to stand trial.
Yeah, but for example, he is found with some medical conditions. What I mean is, what kind of effect would that have on his case? Will the trial still continue and he'll just be, not present in the courtroom? What are the rules that, what happens?
That's a good question, because if you look at the order of the pretrial chamber, there were two issues that were given to the three-person panel of experts. The first issue, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that to determine whether or not there are any medical conditions that might affect the participation of that person in proceedings such as confirmation of charges. Therefore, medical conditions that might affect. Secondly, whether there are any mitigating factors or any mitigating exercises that can be adopted so as to make that person participate in proceedings. So if you look at these two questions as phrased, it actually gives an avenue for the two-person panel of experts to actually give their recommendations as to how to mitigate those medical conditions so that the person, Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, can still participate in the confirmation of charges. So you can see there that the determination of fitness to stand trial is not up to the three-person panel. It's ultimately up to the pre-trial chamber because that's a legal phrase, not a medical phrase.
And attorney, under Rule 118 of the ICC, so the defense can request after 120 days to review this interim release. But when exactly does that 120-day countdown begin, and what would classify under a changed circumstance when it comes to the medical condition of the president?
Okay, actually, Paulina, the question on Rule 118, it refers to the interim release decision, which is not part of the fitness to stand trial. So my reading of Article 118 is that it's the pre-trial chamber which will determine it. So, kailan ba? Sige, let's say ngayon yung 120 days, 4 months. Kailan ba yun? November, December, July, February, March. Maybe there can be a motion or a pleading that can be filed. But it also goes both ways. Kung nakatigan nga yung appeal, this can also be resorted to by the prosecution. So it works both ways. Kasi yun nga, there's a need to determine de novo, as of the moment, yung with respect to interim release. So this is just a checking mechanism on the part of the pre-trial chamber. But as to fitness to stand trial, Rule 118 does not deal with fitness to stand trial.
Sir, let me see if I got this right. Are you saying then that even if Duterte is found to be unfit to stand trial, that's not necessarily going to result in his release? Because the principle of de novo, at this particular time, it could change tomorrow or the day after, and so on the line. I asked it because I also understand that there were some cases, I don't know if it's the ICC or the other tribunals that are international, also based in The Hague, where some accused were found to be unfit to stand for trial, but they remain in detention. Ibig sabihin, hindi ka lang maaring litisin, pero hindi ka rin pwedeng basta-basta pakawalan.
I think that was the situation in one of the ad hoc tribunals. Kasi
Yes, sir.
remember, this is an international tribunal. Yung ad hoc tribunal, I don't, can't remember if it's ICTY or ICTR. Pero kung i-release kasi, it should be released to a state who's willing to accept that person. Kung wala pa pong person who's willing to accept, wala pa pong state who's willing to accept that person, so hindi po ma-release yung person na yun. Kaya doon po sa context na yan, pumirmi pa po siya doon sa detention center ng ad hoc tribunal na yan. Now, with respect to the ICC, it has all the facilities available in the world, the best in the world. So actually, it should not be a problem. And also, I'd like to also add that the determination by the expert panel, it's very limited. That's why, in fact, I really also expect that there will be a confirmation of charges based on that very limited, very precise formulation of the issues.
Well, I wanted to clarify.
Sorry,
Sige, go ahead.
Sir, but can I rephrase that question? If you're found to be unfit to stand trial, does that automatically mean that you need to be released, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, because that person has to be accepted by a state who's willing to accept him or her. So hindi siya automatic in my legal opinion. Oo. Kasi yun nga, kailangan pang ma-determine kung sino bang willing mag-accept sa kanya.
Yes, sir. Pero sir, labas sir yung ibang estado. For example, kung kunwari may tatanggap sa kanya na estado, does that mean na pag unfit ka to stand trial at may tatanggap sa'yo, automatic na yon na ikaw ay papakulan?
Or mas malaki yung chances na parang may... Kasi I think what we're trying to get at, attorney, is ano ba yung point ng pagpa-file nito, di ba? Kung wala siyang, kumbaga, kung mas positive na outcome for the defense. Right? Parang ganon. We're looking for that. What kind of positive outcome could they be looking for? Is it a possible release? Is it...
What are they angling for?
Yeah.
Well, that has been intimated from the start that they'll file for a application for interim release. In fact, from the start, the first week ng arrest ni Mr. Duterte, already manifested that we will strongly oppose this. Oo, sinabi ko yan. As to their ultimate motive, I don't really know. But to be frank and to be very candid, is all of these pleadings has really resulted to undue delay for this case to go onto confirmation charges.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, I just wanted to get a clarification about the holiday schedule. We were discussing earlier in the show na parang may Christmas break then or holiday break.
Na
will they work?
Okay.
Work from home?
Holiday, yung holiday talaga sa ICC technically, yung mga holidays ng The Hague, ng the Netherlands, such as Christmas, New Year, kaya hindi po sila mag-work doon. Now, I think, meron din silang their own holiday break, and kailan ang start ng judicial calendar year ng ICC? It's January 27. That's the start of the judicial calendar year. At meron pa nga silang mga program to start that, to kick it off.
Well, attorney, it's already been 8 months now since President Duterte was detained over at the ICC, and it looks like this is going to be a prolonged trial, even though we earlier expected na mabilis gumalaw ang ICC. But then you also have Mr. Duterte's camp filing several motions. But on the side, on the part of the victims, is this also an opportunity for you to strengthen your case, to find more witnesses and evidence?
Well, I think that the case is already strong from the start. That's why we really want to go to confirmation of charges. And with respect to the victims, let's be very specific. It's not really the burden of the victims to prove the case. That's the burden of the Office of the Prosecutor. But of course, we are willing to help, willing to assist the Office of the Prosecutor. The burden really for the victims is to show the harm suffered because of the Philippine war on drugs.
Okay, maraming salamat sa inyo po, Attorney Gilbert Andres, ICC accredited lawyer.
All right, now in other news, the second wave of the trillion peso march is all set for Sunday, November 30 at the EDSA People Power Monument. The mass action is meant to amplify calls for accountability in the anomalous flood control scam. The Akbayan Group, which is one of the participants, clarifies that they are not calling for the resignation of President Bongbong Marcos.
For BBM to be accountable, for BBM to explain and respond to the charges, and for BBM to take on concrete political actions, hindi puro propa lamang.
Itong issue ng pananagutan ay napakahalaga sa atin dahil kita naman natin apektado tayong lahat sa sobrang grabeng korupsyon. At kailangan maitigil na natin ito.
Akbayan, though, is in line with calls for Vice President Sara Duterte to step down. That's because the VP had already been impeached by the House of Representatives.
Definitely, kailangan managot ng mga Marcoses. Huwag lang po natin ipapahijack sa kampo ni VP Sara na talagang naghihintay. Sabi nga niya, ready na siyang mag-assume kung sakali man, di ba?
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro is warning participants of Sunday's rallies with arrest if they drum up support for destabilization of the government. Aside from the trillion peso march on EDSA, more progressive groups will be holding protests in Manila.
Totally illegal, and that's inciting to sedition. So when you say withdrawal of support, it's an indirect way of saying I'll take over, which is illegal.
The Manila Police District has announced road closures for the anti-corruption protests on Sunday, November 30. And these are on portions of Bonifacio Drive, Rojas Boulevard, Calao Avenue, and Taft Avenue. Likewise closed off are the stretch of Recto Street and Mendiola near Malacanang, Jones to MacArthur Bridge, and the Ayala Bridge.
And moving on, the Trade Department is under fire for standing pat on its statement that 500 pesos is enough for a simple Noche Buena. The DTI explains that prices of Noche Buena items this year have not increased from last year, at least according to the agency's price ceilings. In a press conference meant to clarify her earlier statement, Trade Secretary Cristina Roque cited the DTI's Noche Buena price guide list.
Celebration, I should say, that's actually for those that just want yung regular na handa. Kasi not everybody naman wants to celebrate ostentatiously o yung sobra-sobra. It really depends on ilan po ang kakain or ilan po ang ihanda. Marami na rin ngayon yung single parent or let's say mother-father, iisa lang po yung anak nila. The 500 pesos is enough for them to already have at least a good celebration, Noche Buena celebration for Christmas.
And the Palace is on the DTI side. Here's what Palace Press Officer Claire Castro had to say about the matter.
Hindi mo siguro pwedeng pagsabay-sabayin. Pwede isa. Pwede ham siguro. Meron namang murang ham. Meron, di ba? Yung per shape, mura lang yun. Kung bibili ako ng 1 kilo na ham, na mumurahin, hindi yung may brand, pwede. Ham lang. May mga grocery stores na may discount. Pag malapit na yung, let's say, 3 months, na dapat mabenta na ito lahat, depende po yan si diskarte.
Some lawmakers are criticizing the DTI. House Assistant Minority Leader Ed Gabriela, Representative Sara Elago calls the DTI, and we quote, detached from reality. Ka-Manggagawa Party List Congressman Eli San Fernando says the DTI's belief that 500 pesos is sufficient for a decent Noche Buena reflects a dangerous disconnect between the government and the realities of Filipino families struggling with rising prices.
All right, on a much lighter note, the flagship Time Zone branch in Glorieta 4 has reopened after months-long renovation. And it is all about bundled offers and social play. Executives say that's really the key to the Filipino market. Mobile Journal Amy Atienza tells us more.
After 4 months of renovation, Time Zone in Glorieta 4 has reopened its doors to the public, this time with more games and social play experiences. This flagship store in Glorieta was the first ever branch in Metro Manila, opened in 1998. They've expanded it from 900 square meters to nearly 1,400 square meters, now housing over 120 games and attractions.
It's a venue which later on pretty much birthed all our 51 venues and 55 satellite locations. So it feels great to finally launch it and convert it from a regular amusement center into a multi-attraction family entertainment center.
Multi-attraction means more value for money, shared entertainment features like social bowling, karaoke zones, and a billiards area. Executives say that's what they've noticed about the Filipino market, a preference for group activities that are fun for all ages but don't come with a big price tag. So buy one, get one offers are always a big hit.
Then they can go to, let's say after they play bowling for 30 minutes, they can go to our music rooms, sing for 30 minutes. Some of them may end up later on playing billiards again, groups of 4. So again, we really brought the attractions here for social playing, so people can play together as family, friends, and even office mates.
Time Zone has also pushed into the digital space, adding virtual reality games and rolling out an app. Before the year ends, it's planning to open 2 more locations to add to its portfolio of 51 full-size locations. In 2026, it will launch 6 more outlets. The company says it's also scaling up its party business, which is a key part of their multi-attraction format strategy.
Since the pandemic, since we reopened in 2022, we almost doubled the revenue. So that's proof that the multi-attraction format is working for us. And as we open more of these, we're confident that we will get more customers and guests to come to our venues.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, DR1 News.
And finally, our big picture tonight and for this week, it's the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas releasing the Pista sa Pilipinas 100 Peso Philippine Festival's commemorative silver coin series. The BSP also introduced the 10 peso ASEAN coin. The 100 peso coin features some prominent festivals to celebrate the country's rich cultural heritage. And the 10 peso ASEAN coin, on the other hand, is meant to foster greater interest as the Philippines takes the role of ASEAN chair in 2026. BSP Governor Eli Remolona Jr. and other officials presented the special coins to President Bongbong Marcos last Wednesday.
I panicked for a while there. I thought they were gonna turn the 100 peso bill na into a coin.
Inflation na talaga
Sobrang
yun.
inflation. Okay.
Naisip ba kung kung yung binilik ni Henry Alcantara na 110 million, tigis 10 piso?
Na coin?
Oh my gosh.
Di ba nagka-issue pa yan? Actually, may value yun, di ba? Kasi bakal yun eh. Remember, we were losing our coins at some point, and the BSP were looking for all the 25 centavo coins.
So each coin, I saw this in the internet, each 100 peso coin has a legal tender denomination of 100 pesos.
100 peso
Wait, but if you buy it, it's 5,000 pesos because it's a
May 100
commemorative.
peso coin? Okay.
The 100 peso coin.
The 100 peso coin, if you buy it, is 5,000 pesos.
You can use it and it will be worth 100, but would you trade your 5,000 pesos for
No, I was saying we
100
were
peso.
even just talking about the 500 peso Noche Buena and how much of a stretch that is.
Oh, hindi ko alam anong ham ba yung pasok sa 500 pesos fiesta ham, Baka sliced ham. Okay, but that's it for the big story this week. Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next month. That is on Monday, December 1. We're on at 7:30 p.m. as usual.
Kapatid, we are one news, all sides, all the time. Happy weekend.
And for this last weekday of November, we have play-by-play up next with Andre Felix and Cheska Liton Calao. Guys,
Kinabahan ako sa next month is Monday na.
kinabahan ka. Hindi ka pa nagsha-shopping.
I haven't
Christmas
started
shopping?
Christmas shopping, guys.
Same here.
Actually, oo nga, when you think about it, na December na, parang, di ba, remember we were just talking about it? Like, I remember Ces was saying, Bok, Pauline and Sean, di ba sabi niya, see you next month, November. Ngayon, December na sa Monday, so...
Parang kahapon lang.
Parang kahapon lang. Ikaw, Bok, anong naalala mo?
You celebrate Christmas every other year na lang.
Parang birthday ni Bok.
Oo.
That's the secret to eternal youth and bigger savings.
Okay, thank you, Bok.